He who tolerates disorder to avoid war will first have disorder, and then war.
Problems don't disappear by magic. They're not solved with patience, with hope, or with self-deception. They are solved through action, quick, decisive, and effective. They say time heals all wounds. But Machiavelli would have said exactly the opposite. What you don't confront in time doesn't heal. It rots, like a neglected wound that, little by little, turns into gangrene. And when that happens, the only way out is amputation. By then, it's already too late. Machiavelli was clear. Problems must be solved while they are still small, before they become uncontrollable. Because in politics, in war, and in life, time is not a remedy. It's a tool of power. He who acts first takes control. He who hesitates too long becomes a victim of circumstances. Because when the problem is minor, you can still control it. But if you let it grow, it becomes impossible to manage. We see this reflected in countless situations. For example, a minor mistake that, when ignored, ends in disaster. A simple offense that over time turns into hatred. A health problem that, left untreated, becomes irreversible. A workplace crisis that, when avoided, leads to termination. Time doesn't wait, and it doesn't forgive either. Today, on The Sophist, we reveal the hidden power of quick action, and why waiting too long may be your worst mistake. We'll explore how postponing decisions can cost you opportunities, relationships, and even your future. And at the end, I'll share 3 techniques to help you react in time and keep a problem from growing out of control until it devours you. Because in this world, those who act late and slow disappear. For Machiavelli, the secret to power, leadership, and success in life lies in one crucial skill: identifying problems while they are still small and eliminating them at the root before they become threats that are impossible to control. Because conflicts don't disappear on their own, they are not solved over time, they don't improve with inaction. If they are allowed to grow, they gain strength and end up destroying everything in their path.
Diseases, at the beginning, are hard to diagnose but easy to cure. Over time, they become easy to diagnose, but impossible to cure. The same happens in life. Problems that are ignored grow until they become unmanageable.
The key lies in 2 words: diagnosis and action. Machiavelli tells us that every problem has a point of no return, a moment when, if no action has been taken, the damage becomes irreversible. And obviously, the longer the wait, the worse the situation becomes. At first, a conflict is a small annoyance. It's manageable, even insignificant. It's easy to solve. But the big mistake that people and leaders make is thinking that, if they ignore it, it will go away on its own. That's not how it works. Every day that passes without solving a problem is a day lost. When it's not addressed in its early stage, it expands, multiplies, strengthens, digs deeper, becomes nearly impossible to eliminate, and the cost of solving it multiplies exponentially. Machiavelli compares it to a river in rainy season.
Problems can be contained when they are small, but if you let them grow and overflow, they will sweep away everything in their path, and there will be no way to stop them.
When facing a difficult situation, the key is to act with decision and force. To wait is to lose. Problems not only grow over time, they also become harder to resolve because they generate resistance. That's why Machiavelli insists that when you detect a conflict or a threat, you must act immediately and with the necessary force to resolve it once and for all. No half measures, no waiting to see what happens, no incomplete solutions. If a problem must be eliminated, it must be eliminated without hesitation. Because when conflicts are not fully resolved, they come back. And when they return, they come back stronger, with resentment, and with even greater hostility than before. Inaction is not an option. Acting with firmness and determination is not just a strategy, it's a necessity. One of the mistakes Machiavelli most strongly criticizes is falling into the trap of half-solutions. When we face a problem, essentially, there are two paths. The first is choosing the soft solution. This means handling the issue with diplomacy, making small adjustments, giving concessions, or simply postponing it. The second is to go for the radical solution. This means cutting the problem at the root and making sure it never reappears. Machiavelli doesn't beat around the bush. Superficial remedies not only fail to solve the problem, they make it worse.
Evils must be treated with firmness. If they are allowed to grow, they can no longer be contained, and the damage will be greater.
Why does this happen? Because when you try to soften a conflict instead of eliminating it, you give it time to reorganize. You allow it to grow stronger in the shadows. You give the impression that there's room for negotiation, when in fact, there shouldn't be. The only way to solve a real crisis is through energetic, quick, clear, and definitive action. If a problem has a solution, it must be applied without hesitation and with enough strength to ensure it never returns. The worst mistake you can make is doing nothing.
Unresolved problems never stay the same. Either you eliminate them, or they grow and end up destroying you.
Machiavelli warns that those who avoid making difficult decisions in the present moment will end up paying a much higher price in the future, because the problem you ignored today will be bigger tomorrow, because the obstacle you overlooked today will be stronger when it returns, because the enemy you didn't eliminate today will come back tomorrow with more allies, more resources, and more power. And on top of that, he will be more emboldened and confident after seeing your indecision, hesitation, and weakness. Problems must be resolved today, not tomorrow. We see it everywhere, at work, in relationships, in money, or in health. In most cases, there are small warning signs that, for some reason, we choose to ignore, and later, over time, those signs become uncontrollable crises. Sound familiar? How many times does a relationship end not because of a big betrayal, but because of small problems that piled up and were never resolved? What is not spoken rots. Everything starts with the tiniest details, almost imperceptible. A harsh reply here, or a gesture of indifference there. A disagreement left unspoken because it's not that important. A change in the other person's attitude that you prefer to ignore as if it didn't exist. Day by day, those small tensions build up. But instead of confronting and solving them at the root, we let them go. And then, one day, the buildup is so big there's no turning back. Resentment grows. Third parties get involved. Indifference and distrust rise. There's no way to fix it anymore, and the relationship breaks. Another example is when you start noticing something off at work. Before, you were given important projects. Now, you're left out of key meetings. At first you think, well, it's probably nothing. But time goes on, and you realize your tasks are much more basic, that you're being assigned only the minimal work. And before you know it, you're on the list of people who might be fired. The mistake here was waiting too long. Because in the work world, if you don't solve the problems, someone else will, and not in your favor. If you see signs that your position is at risk, that your performance is declining, or that your boss is losing confidence in you, act immediately. Ask questions, make adjustments, find solutions. If you wait too long, the only thing left will be accepting the termination letter. Another classic situation is financial problems. No one goes bankrupt overnight. There are always early signs. It all starts with small habits. An unnecessary expense here and another one there. A small loan that isn't paid on time. A paycheck that's no longer enough, but instead of making changes, you choose to ignore reality. 1 month passes, then another, and suddenly the snowball is out of control. Financial ruin doesn't come from a single mistake, but from an accumulation of small, ignored failures. If you see that your expenses are growing more than they should, do something now. If a debt starts to grow, cut it off before it becomes unsustainable. Because when financial problems grow too much, the options boil down to two: get further into debt or lose everything. And what about health? How many times have we heard stories of people who ignore small signs until the damage can no longer be undone? At first, it all starts with mild discomfort, a recurring headache, fatigue that doesn't go away, or that medical checkup you should get, but keep postponing. Maybe because of laziness, maybe because of the fear of discovering something you'd rather not know. But months or years later, the illness is now serious. Something that could have been easily solved now requires surgery, aggressive treatments, or, in the worst-case scenario, there's nothing left to do. If your body sends you signals, don't ignore them. Don't wait until it's too late to start taking care of yourself. If something feels wrong, check it now. Evils must be uprooted at the beginning, because once they grow, who will stop them? And now, tell me, what problem are you avoiding facing? You know that tomorrow it will be twice as hard, and the day after, 3 times harder. Don't let it keep growing. Face it now. Here are 3 practical and proven strategies you can start applying today to stop procrastinating, make faster decisions, and take control of problems before they take control of you. First, the 2-minute rule, created by David Allen. Its premise is simple. If something takes less than 2 minutes to do it immediately. No overthinking, no analyzing, no waiting for the perfect moment. Just do it. Do you need to reply to a message? Do it now. Need to make a call? Dial it now. See something that needs fixing? Fix it right then and there. Don't let small tasks pile up and become a snowball. And if something takes more than 2 minutes, don't leave it to chance. Schedule it and give it a specific time on your calendar. But whatever can be done quickly, do it now. No excuses. Second, the first domino technique. This strategy is based on the domino effect and the principle of minimum effort, both widely studied in behavioral psychology. The idea is simple. We don't procrastinate because the task is difficult, but because the first step makes us uncomfortable. And when something causes discomfort, our brain tends to avoid it. The way to overcome this is by not thinking about the entire task, but only about the smallest possible first step. If you have to write a report, open the document and write 1 sentence. If you need to work out, put on your sports clothes. If you have to clean, pick up just 1 object. It may sound silly, but that's the key. Once you take the first step, inertia does the rest. You don't need motivation, you just need to move. And movement generates more movement, because starting is the hardest part. But once you start, you won't stop. Third, the imposed deadline method. This technique is based on Parkinson's law, formulated by British historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson. His discovery was simple but powerful. The more time you give a task, the more it expands to fill that time, even if it doesn't actually require it. In other words, if you give yourself all day to do something, it'll take all day. But if you give yourself 1 hour, you'll finish it in an hour. So do this. If you need to respond to a difficult message, write it in 3 minutes and send it without overthinking. If there's something you've been postponing, set a timer and start now. The key is to force yourself to act before your brain starts sabotaging you with excuses. The less time you give yourself, the more efficient you become. And now tell me, are you going to let your problems keep growing until they consume you? Are you ready to use this knowledge to your advantage? If the answer is yes, I'd like you to write the words, "I face my problems," in the comments. Do it as a commitment to yourself, to take control of your life, to stop procrastinating, and to finally confront the conflicts that have been tormenting you. And please, don't let this video remain just theory. Turn it into a practical tool to transform and improve your life and the lives of others. And if you want to keep exploring the ideas of the great thinkers, subscribe to The Sophist to stay up to date with our latest videos. Because there are two kinds of people, those who decide quickly and those who die slowly. Time waits for no one. Either you act now or you'll be devoured by the weeds you didn't have the courage to pull from your life.